we'll hear from some leaders in the agriculture industry about their careers, how they got there, advice for students, and we're really excited to hear what our panel has to say today. My name is Kris Costa. I'm the Dean of Career Technical Education at West Hills College Lemoore, and I'm the moderator for the panel today. So we'll start with having our panelists introduce themselves, identify their title, the organization they work for, and how their organization interacts with agriculture. We'll start here with George.
Yeah, I'm George Pierce. I'm the general manager with Garton Tractor. We are a large New Holland and Kubota dealership, farm equipment dealership with 10 locations throughout the state of California. I manage the location here in Tulare. So with farm equipment, tractors is not only the things that we sell. We sell a lot of different implements and equipment that is used in production agriculture throughout the state. And also, I am the vice president of the board for the International Agri Center, and currently serving out here at the International Agri Center with the board, and have been working with the World Ag Expo for as long as it's been started in 1967. And so it's a pleasure to be here this morning and participate in this panel.
My name is Munday. I am the marketing communications coordinator for Bennett. We are an agricultural retailer who covers everything from crop services, about the pest control advisors, crop nutrition with agronomists. We also do food safety and worker safety compliance, water services as well, from deep well pumps to drip irrigation, anything that makes water move from pump all the way to our orchards as well. We have 8 locations throughout California, and our main goal is to help growers feed the world. I also serve as the chair for the Tulare County Farmers and Ranchers Committee. I'm excited to be here on this panel today and see this conversation take place.
Great. Excited about that. Thank you.
And good morning. My name is Michael Smith. I'm the Vice President of Technical Services and Industry Relations for the beef division of Harris Ranch. That's one of the largest functionally integrated beef companies in the United States, which was about 2 years ago purchased by the Brian Quayle family here in Tulare. When I say functionally integrated, I mean that we operate not only a feeding division, but also a beef processing division. So our feeding division is located near Columbia, California. That feedlot has a one-time capacity of 120,000 cattle. So over the course of the calendar year, we are going to feed a little over 250,000 head of cattle on an annual basis. Those cattle then are taken to our beef processing facility that's located near the town of Kingsburg. That facility has a one-time capacity, or a daily capacity, if you will, of roughly 1,200 head of cattle. So we will, and I'm going to use the term slaughter, roughly 1,200 head of cattle a day, 6 days a week. What we're doing effectively is converting a live animal into edible tissue, real high quality, high protein substance that we're going to consume. But the facility not only is harvesting those animals, converting them to meat, but also generating the byproducts associated with them. At the plant, we also have some further processing capabilities. We operate a pre-cooked plant, so basically a cooking operation where we're going to produce deli meats that are sold nationwide, and then we have a grinding operation as well. So it is a relatively large facility, and as it relates to agriculture, it should be self-evident. It's in the beef industry domain.
Thank you, Mike.
So I'm Lain. I'm the senior agronomist and agronomic services manager for Bennett, so work with Bailey. So basically, I manage the crop nutrition and water treatment divisions of the company. For the crop nutrition side, I don't know if you guys have experience with that, but I work with farmers on a daily basis to help them get higher yields, basically troubleshoot problems that are in the field, and basically just try to make their job easier. So it's a lot of biology, chemistry, things like that. All the unpopular topics in high school, but it's pretty fun in the field. These guys really need someone they can rely on, they can trust, and that's basically what I'm there to do, is to consult with them. So I don't physically sell them anything, but I basically just consult them on trying to find answers to their problems. And, our PCAs, the other guys that are actually the salesmen, the pest control advisors, they're the ones that actually manage those accounts. I'm more of, just a third party person that helps come up with answers to problems.
Welcome, thank you. Please.
I'm Casey Tharp. I'm Vice President and General Manager of Tharp from the state of Peterbilt. We have 3 locations, one in Fresno, Porterville, and Bakersfield. We supply the ag industry with medium and heavy duty vehicles to take the product from the farm to the market to the factory, other things. I'm 3rd generation family, and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, welcome to our panelists. We're thrilled to have you here. So let's go ahead and get started. And we recognize on our panel today, we have some folks that have been in their industry for a while and some folks that are relatively new to their industry. So I think what I'd like to start with today is have you talk about how you got started in your industry. And we'll start with Bailey, ladies first. Start with how you got started in your industry and what your entry was into the industry.
Yeah, so my introduction into kind of the marketing communications field in agriculture was completely by accident. I originally wanted to be a large animal veterinarian and more specifically with dairy farmers. I originally, going to college, I had to take Cal College San Luis Obispo as an animal science major, was set on the pre-vet track. And unfortunately, Pete decided I hated biology and chemistry and was not doing well in those classes. I knew I really liked agriculture. My family has a history within it from the feedlot side and from the graze and grape side too as well. And my mom knows I enjoy talking a lot, and so she said, "Why not look into agricultural communications?" Cal Poly does have a major in this, so I took one journalism class and I took. I still really liked the animal science major, so I decided to stick with that. Continue my courses and take on a minor within ag comps. And I actually came back home to Tulare, California, where my family's at, 3 days after graduating. And I ran into Garton at the time, the name of the company. We merged with Bennett Water Systems back in January 2020. And I met my now boss, and we just hit it off in the conversation. And it happened to do with me knowing an intern at the time who was also in marketing. And she introduced me and we just sat down and had a conversation. And that's really how I got my foot in the door. But I also had that interest in marketing and communications at that time too as well, from taking some of those classes that got me into journalism and graphics design or social media, whatever it may be, that really helped me realize there's a broader platform to be able to share about this industry and not just have to physically be out the field to compare things. I can share that story with people on the outside. So that's kind of how I got introduced in the industry. Was not planning to be in this position at all. I wanted to be working for dairy farmers here in the valley, but now I'm getting to share some of their stories and provide services for them and share about those services that get to do what they do every day.
Casey, you talked about being 3rd generation. I think you probably know how you got started, but can you talk about that a little bit? How did you get started?
Just as a young boy, I always worked around the shop. Kind of going in, doing whatever I could, learning what I could. And then once I graduated high school, I started working full time in the parts department, and I worked every department in our business, and now I'm general manager. So,
Have you ever worked anywhere else?
I did for a couple of years, yes.
Okay.
I worked for a company out of Parma, Italy that built tomato paste factories. We put one up in Firewall. That was quite interesting.
You're using the same skill sets that you use it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good, nice. Mike, how did you get started?
Probably like a lot of people, I grew up on a ranch, so it's kind of just grew up in the beef industry. So either working with cattle, showing cattle as a kid, it just became a love for me. I like some of my panels, they were included. I went to school at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo as well. I got my degree in animal science, went on to obtain a master's degree in animal science also at State University. I started a PhD in meat science. I never finished that degree. Got married and decided that family was perhaps a little more important than education. Unlike a couple of my fellow panelists, I do love biology. So that was kind of the reason I stayed in that field. I am a fifth generation rancher, if you will, having grown up on a ranch, raising commercial cow-calf operation. After I graduated from Oklahoma State, I actually started with an association, it was called the National Cattlemen's Association at the time. It's since merged with the Beef Industry Council, and it's now the National Cattlemen's and Beef Association. But regardless, in that role, I was representing the industry as it relates to a lot of environmental issues that the industry is faced with. I started my own business shortly thereafter, and then ended up at Harris Ranch about 17 years ago. I started in the marketing department, assisting the marketing department with tackling some of the more technical issues that the industry faced, explaining to consumers and to even our customer base why we do some of the things we do in the meat industry. From there, I just morphed into a position over time. I do represent the company on a number of different boards, whether it's the Meat Institute, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association here locally, the California Cattlemen's Association, the Beef Council, et cetera. So I have a wide exposure to the industry. I understand the beef industry, very holistic fashion and at 30,000 feet. Once I get down in the weeds, if you will, I might get a little frustrated, but that's relatively my role, and that's how I got started in this industry.
George, how did you get started?
Well, I grew up on a farm just 10 miles south of here in Tipton on Watson's Ranch. Went to school there, got into as ag as a major at Tulare Union High School, and got very involved in FFA, was an officer for all 4 years that I was in FFA, and then like others on the panel, what Cal Poly saying was the best one. I went over
I'm set the panel.
So anyway, I went over there as an ag engineering major. I thought, boy, I'm gonna be an engineer. I wanted to design stuff and build stuff. Boy, calculus, physics, and all of that stuff that went with engineering was just over my head with that. And so they had a lower division in the ag engineering department called at that time mechanized agriculture. And so I stepped to that major, and a lot of salespeople come out of there, a lot of business people come out of that major that are running businesses throughout the country today. And so I stepped to that major, graduated with my bachelor's degree, and then was quickly hired by a large manufacturer, Sperry Mulholland back in the day in 1973. And I got to travel a little bit, and I really got involved in mechanized agriculture and working with Sperry Mulholland. And then later I got tired of traveling and was raising a family. So I got into a localized dealership and have done that the rest of my life. Been doing this for
Meetings
about
kept a lot of people.
35,
Classes
36
trying to get
years.
in, but they can't.
As
Is that
a
a-
general
it's hard to reach
manager
one
of farm equipment.
logins.
I've been 12 years at Garton Tractor. And, sure enjoy it. It's been a business that we meet farmers every day, and
Text her.
we have a
We had
lot
more
of
people
good
wanting to join,
employees
but
that
they can't.
aren't college graduates, and I know we're visiting with high schoolers today. And we need a lot of mechanics, technicians, we need a lot of parts people, we need a lot of sales people. And you don't have to have a bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate to do those kind of jobs. And I know not every student is going to be a college student. And so I hope that we can influence you today that where you're at in your field, where you want to be, we'll be able to offer you a path through this panel today of, where you might want to go somewhere in your career. So it's really an honor to be here today.
Well said. As a community college dean, I appreciate you saying that there are multiple paths. That's fantastic. That's why the system is built like this. Pete, how'd you get started?
So I'm gonna butt the side here, because I went to the other Cal Poly, Cal Poly Pomona, so that's what Rainbow Valley says, the other Cal Poly, 'cause they didn't know it was. But no, I actually started, I grew up in Southern California, I had some family that farmed and ranched. And I really wanted to be a livestock veterinarian, large animal, similar to Bailey. I guess after I took some animal science classes, at a junior college, Mount Sac, to be specific, I really found my passion down there. I thought it was really interesting, the animal science thing. I took a lot of beef classes and equine classes and really dove into it. And, then I don't know, I wasn't confident enough to stick with the animal science side of things, but I just wasn't sure what I was going to do if I didn't make it in vet school. I'm sure I'm just telling you this because a lot of you probably find yourselves there as well. And I actually had a kind of an interesting meeting with a gentleman who was an agronomist. I had no idea what that was at the time. But I got to know him really well and learned more about it. Really found a lot of interest there. I always had a lot of interest in animal nutrition and crop nutrition was very similar, just from a different perspective. And made the switch, graduated, and basically entered the career at that point. That was about 15 years ago now, not to age myself, but it's been an interesting transition. One of the things that I see in this field is, there's always a lot of interest in the animal side of things, which I myself still have a huge interest in. But we definitely need more agronomists in this field. Basically, we're kind of the detectives to help the farmers, find the answers that they're looking for. The other thing this field needs a lot of is pest control factors. It's a complete system. It's really a wheel of parts. Whether you're an equipment person or a pest person or an agronomist or an animal science, it's a complete system that we really need a lot of people to backfill. Because in my opinion, you guys are the future, and as much as we're all good at what we do, we're trying to impart knowledge on you guys because you're the next opportunity this industry has to grow. Specifically to my section of the industry, the plant science side of it, we've seen a lot of change within the agricultural industry from the production farming, where we used to just put your straight nutrients on. Now we're looking at more sustainable ways of doing things, from biology and things that people always understood on the animal side, measuring rate of gain, right? We didn't do that in the crop side for a long time. Now we're starting to get into that. And that's really what I guess drives my interest is how do we do better and how do we produce a better quality product for the people that are not eating it, how do we spread that message, so as much as we're industry professionals, we're also stewards and trying to impart this message on people.
I think that's really a great point, a perfect segue for the next question I want to ask you, because as we all know, less and less of our country's population is involved in production agriculture. Many of you shared that you came from a farming background, you grew up on a ranch, a farm, or a dairy. What advice would you give to someone, maybe someone that's watching today that doesn't live on a ranch or a farm, has an interest in agriculture that maybe was sparked perhaps through an ag education program, maybe a 4-H program, et cetera? What advice would you give them to get started on their ag journey, even as a high school student? Anybody want to jump in on that?
I was probably the one kid that shouldn't have ended up where I ended up. I grew up in Pasadena, of all places. Yeah, I had family that farmed ranch, but I wasn't directly involved. I just had that interest of growing things and just learning. I would say that the biggest challenge you'll face is yourself. And people will tell you, hey, well, you didn't grow up doing that. It's okay. You can still keep, go after your dream and you can still learn. That's why we have colleges. That's why we have, these people that you can rely on. But you really gotta go find those people. There's resources you can start even in high school. You can volunteer with people. Originally, I'll take myself as an example. I was interested to be a big farm vet. So, even in high school, I volunteered at some stables. When the vet would come, I'd partner around, I'd ask questions. I always felt that I'd go ahead and ask to see if I could have internships with paperwork. I said, no, I didn't want to lose anything, right? But if I didn't ask, I lost everything. So I always wanted to be that kid that asked the question, that wanted the opportunity. And I think if you're hungry for the opportunity, people will see that and they're more than willing to try to help you out. I mean, don't be afraid to ask. People like myself or any of these panelists really want to see you guys succeed, and we know you guys in the future.
Well said. And I'm interested in the mechanized ag fields. And I'm looking at Casey and George here. What's the opportunity for a high school student perhaps that has an interest in that area, wants a little bit more experience? What do you think a high school student should do if they want to get some experience as a high school student in the mechanized ag field? They're looking at each other.
I'll speak up. I know for,
They can't hear very well.
students around the Tulare area, for example, but this would be statewide. There's good ag departments in any of the high schools throughout the state, especially in areas where, agriculture is the main business, so to speak, up and down our valley. But we have dealerships that are located in the North Coast area where a lot of grapes are raised and things like that. But I would encourage students to get involved in ag in their local high schools. I know here at the Tulare, they offer very good ag mechanics classes. And to get involved that way, if mechanized agriculture is asked, if that's what your interest is, I would encourage you to do that. And then, our state laws kind of prevent us sometimes from being able to utilize young people because, all the laws allowing you to work in our business around equipment sometimes prevents us from being able to, have a young man come in and shadow a mechanic or a technician or work in our parts departments and things. But I would encourage you to get out there and maybe ask if the businesses would be willing to put on an intern, because I know we would. And then if you're a little more ambitious, I know like the Reedley College has an ag mechanics program there that I believe Quinn Caterpillar sponsors, but they can't hire all of the kids. And so every one of our farm equipment dealerships up and down the valley watch that college, and with the interest of being able to hire those students and bring them on as trainees and bring them up. But I would encourage you to get involved in FFA agriculture. Doesn't have to always be a livestock project. I raised cotton when I was in high school, had a 4-acre plot, and got the experience of actually farming a little piece of ground right out here at Tulare Union High School. And so you don't have to raise livestock, you don't have to be on a dairy or have a beef project, which is real expensive. There's a lot of things you can do in FFA, 4-H, and then go on to college if that is your choice. If not, if it's not JC, then search out businesses. We as a company, I was on a Zoom call this morning, we would probably hire 20 technicians today throughout our company if we could find them. And I think if I was to poll every dealership in our area, we would need 30, 40 mechanics, technicians right here in Tulare County. So anyway.
Well, you bring up a very interesting concept, this technician level career. It's an excellent career that I think sometimes our high school students don't get enough attention for those careers, that technician level training. Typically, those are coming either out of some kind of certification program or out of a community college program. So those of you that have entry-level technician type careers, could you speak to what you're looking for in terms of preparation? Is there an industry certification that you want, or is there some kind of certificate from a community college? Is there work experience specific to that technician level career?
Speaking for us, the mechanical field is a highly sought after field right now. I can't get enough mechanics for my stores. It's an ongoing battle. There's places like Reedley, UTI, Biotech. I think Lain has some ag mechanics or trucking type engine work. I mean, anytime you can get into those and if you can further your experience, if you're in that mechanical field, that's opening you up to the knowledge, understanding what it is that you're selling. If later in life you want to move up, start selling equipment or parts or whatever, by knowing the mechanical aspects of the vehicle, that puts you ahead of the next guy that doesn't.
Great, thank you.
And,
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but along with what Casey was saying here, all of this equipment, the trucks, the farm equipment, has become so sophisticated. There's so much computer technology being used, and you young folks seem to be way past my age group in being able to work with computers, work with your phones, work with your iPads, and things like that. And every one of these tractors, every one of these trucks, I don't need to speak for Casey there, they are very sophisticated. And so if you would go to some place like Wheaton College or whatever, and get into one of those type programs, you come out of there with an AA degree, and you would probably be trained some in the computer technology that's being used on all of this equipment, and be able to work your way around the systems. And so I would encourage you, as far as certification, I would love to see a technical degree for a 2-year degree, an AA degree out of Greeley or any of the colleges that are offering those programs. But that's not necessarily, I don't necessarily have to have that, but I would sure welcome it.
Do you feel like employees that come in with that hit the ground running a little more than those you have to train up? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would definitely say that. They would know their ways around the computers more than likely, they would know their ways around the computers that are in this equipment. Because every one of my mechanics or technicians all have to hook up laptops to the equipment and be able to diagnose it. A car is no different, a truck is no different. That's the technology we're dealing with today.
Mike, would you speak to that technician level career in your organization?
Yeah, briefly, but I would like to circle back and maybe give some advice, if you will, as to how somebody can get involved to make agriculture a career, if you allow.
Absolutely.
I think like a number of the panelists have described, I think it's important that you do try to immerse yourself in the field of agriculture if those classes are being taught at your high school. It's interesting, and some of the questions I've posed with deans of agriculture across this country, we're finding more and more that between 70 and 90% of young students coming into college into the School of Agriculture are not raised in a rural setting. They don't have an agricultural background. So to reiterate the point that a number of the panelists have tried to make is that don't feel like just because you didn't grow up on a ranch or a farm, that there's no opportunity for you to find a career in agriculture. And boy, do we need people. We need lots of people. And we need people that are smart, and I would stress that have tremendous communication skills. I'll fall back on myself as an example. I was a shy kid that grew up in Central Point, Oregon, little southwestern city in the Roe Valley. I was encouraged to judge livestock as a kid. I showed cattle, and I would consistently make the county livestock judging team when we go to the state fair. And when it came time for that contest, I would conveniently get lost because I was fearful of having to stand up in front of somebody and explain why I made the decisions that I made in that judging contest. So I would strongly encourage you to, if you're wanting to get into agriculture, actually any field, make certain that you are very well versed in communication. Oral communication, written communication. I think it's so important in today's society in terms of how we interact with one another. So I know there's not a lot of opportunities in the FFA programs out in California. To me, my exposure was effectively livestock. But I mean, I know you've got cotton teams, citrus teams, livestock judging teams, meats judging teams. I actually coach a meats judging team, or did the previous 2 years prior to COVID. So do immerse yourself in any and all opportunities that you have to develop your communication skills. I think it's very important. Communication skills, critical thinking skills, the ability to explain to people why you're doing the things you're doing, why you made the decisions that you've made, and to be able to communicate them to laborers. As far as the technical applications, at least at the company that I'm with, boy, that's a broad swath. I mean, we need people in information technology, the IT folks that are actually helping us interface between packaging or production-related areas. We need people in the fields, hydraulics, electronics, refrigeration. I mean, there's a broad spectrum of technical skills that are needed either at a beef processing facility and or oddly enough at the feedlot level. At production agricultural levels, there's been a great expansion in terms of the need to have some technical background in operating equipment and formulating rations, just a whole litany of things that we would need. So
Great, thank you. So let's continue talking about entry-level careers and particularly the employees that you see coming into your industry and perhaps into your organization. Mike talked a little bit about this in terms of what we're looking for, but I'd like you to discuss the gaps that you see. When you look at future employees, folks that are coming to you to start with your organization, and you get to know them, you interview them, you're seeing their resume, where are the areas that you are seeing that there are gaps in their preparation? Now, anyone can jump in on that. That's a tough one.
yes. So I guess I just offered myself.
I think you did. I think you did. Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I've got really hard examples of some of the gaps other than one, as I previously discussed, the need to be able to communicate, make decisions, to articulate why you make those decisions. I think it's extremely important also to have a really strong work ethic. I think what's lacking somewhat, when I see folks that are coming to our company and where they might wash out, is agriculture, just, I'm going to be very blunt, it's a tough industry. The expectations are that you're going to work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. And I know that this new generation sometimes struggles with that. But trust me, if you get into a job and you enjoy it, it's fulfilling, those hours don't mean much by the end of the day. I mean, it's something that you're involved with the company, you're making it successful. Our jobs as individuals operating those companies is make certain to engage with the employees, to help them. I mean, I admit, it's a huge transition. And we've had those people who come from inner cities who think, man, I want to get on a horse. I want to learn to be a cowboy. And nothing against that. But I mean, if you don't come into the ag industry with eyes wide open in terms of what people in this industry are going to expect of you, unfortunately, I think you're not going to be successful in that career. I don't want you to think that you're going to come to it, or if you decided to go into a career in agriculture, that maybe walk around with a ball and chain tied to your desk or to a production line. That's not my point. My point is that people need to show their employers that they believe in what they're doing, that they believe in the company that they're working for, that we like to call it heritage. They're writing for the brand. You know, they're thinking about all the things that they need to do to assist the company in being successful. And if that means putting in long, hard hours, that's what we're going to ask you. But and once more, I don't want to scare you away from getting involved in agriculture, but I just think you need to make certain you come into this industry with eyes wide open.
I think it goes with passion. I think we all want employees that have a passion for the work that they're doing, whether it's in agriculture, education. You certainly want your doctor to have a passion for what he's doing and it's going to operate on you, right? So I think it just comes with passion. If you have a passion for what you're doing, then you never work a day in your life. Bailey, you're relatively new in your role with GAR, relatively fresh out of college. Can you speak to some of the gaps maybe that you experienced yourself as you got started in your career, or maybe what you're seeing in other folks coming into your field?
Yeah, definitely. So in regards to people coming into our field. I personally don't see a lot of entry level people that get to come in. A lot of people that we hire that push you back to more of the technician level or technical level. We hire a lot of mechanics, drivers, people to work in our fertilizer department or tank fill or even blending. We hire a lot of worker safety trainers or food safety trainers who maybe don't have their certifications yet but are still learning. That I don't really get to see as much. In regards to more of the marketing communications realm, I'd say what there might be gaps in is more so the work experience aspect of that. I think everyone sometimes thinks like, oh, I have a social media platform, so I am a social media guru. That's not entirely true. There's a lot more behind it that you find out over time while working in this field and in this industry. And there's a lot of learning tools that come with that. I think the biggest gaps, kind of touching back on what Mike said, is definitely that work ethic. I think a lot of us, specifically, maybe in my generation or younger, a lot of times we graduate, we get our degree, we get our certification, and we think we're the best things since sliced bread. And that's the only thing we can do. That's not true. You will constantly learn every single day of your life, and you will have gaps in your knowledge that you need to improve upon every day. I definitely thought I would not be sitting in the seat I am today at all, but here I am, and I'm still learning every day in the seat, whether it be my boss or from other departments like heat and agronomy, from the PCAs, from our compliance team, because I don't understand all aspects of agriculture. I myself did not come from an agriculture background. Both my parents are insurance agents. So for me, it was definitely a learning process of getting involved in 4-H and then FFA and having mentors in my life to help me with that. And I'd say, again, touching on that work ethic also comes with work experiences. Go do internships. Go find employers who are willing to have you sit at their front desk so you can learn how to take a phone call. Because that is so important, because I don't know how many people I call on the phone and have no customer service skills. That is a main priority to have. And being able to have that communication asset, to have that critical thinking asset, even having problem solving and not just melting down when an issue arises. Being able to sit there and take on a new perspective. I think those are definitely the gaps I see in this upcoming entry level scope. But I also see a lot of great ways of this generation knowing how to fix things better, smarter, faster. Whereas the other generations or older generations, it's more of putting as many hours as you can to get it done, or trying to do ways to do it in less time and get more done. So I think there's kind of gaps on both sides that come with that. I also think it comes with employers being willing to teach these employees and have those learning moments with them, because we're not going to know everything, but if we're passionate and excited to do it, I think that's kind of where.
Any other comments on that entry level performance grade?
I guess what already been said, I think it's really important that you guys understand this is the thing that I find about, this is what's already been said. I really need people that want to have a passion, but you really want to make each job their own business. I mean, whether you work for Harris Ranch or work for Bennett, I treat my job every day as if I'm my own, and if it's something that I think a job needs to get done to help the business, I stay. My boss doesn't have to ask me to stay. The boss doesn't have to ask me to try. I try to embrace it. I don't want to pay bills, and that's the type of attitude we're all looking for, because it's a field that requires long hours. And yeah, there are times where there's seasonality and there's less hours to work, but really passion is what keeps us all motivated to keep going. But the second thing is reliability. Whether you're feeling great or not feeling great, you can show up and really give it 100%. That's a huge thing. And it sounds so simple, but there are so many people that I see every day that can be 2, 3, 4 times as successful in their careers if they would just they would just pick up the phone and the phone rings. Simple stuff. There's a lot of people that have this incredible passion for the first year and it kind of dies off, maybe bored, but we're a long-standing field that really needs people that have that passion, but it's also a deep-seated passion. passion, I guess is what I would say. You know, we don't tell someone you have passion for a job. You need to just know it inside of you. You know, and if it's not for you, that's okay too. You can find something else, or maybe there's another career within ag that might be better. I mean, speaking for myself, I love animal science. That's probably my biggest passion of all, right? I don't work in animal science. I do plant science. It's also a passion of mine. But early in my career, I had a lot of sales jobs. You know, I sold equipment, rented combines. I've worked in almost every facet of agriculture because I just love agriculture. But I think that all those different jobs have helped me understand, you know, when I have a team of guys now and I ask them to do something, I've done that job. I know what I'm asking them to do. So, you know, when you guys are entering the workforce, you know, all of us guys up here, you know, we all have those jobs. And so we know what we're asking of you and we've been there. So I think having a general understanding when you come in, whether you're trained or not trained, you know, we don't necessarily expect that of you. What we're expecting is that you have the willingness to learn. If you have the willingness to learn, passion, and you're reliable, you will really far in this career.
You bring up a really interesting point that I think I know we are seeing at the community college quite a bit now. High school students now have an incredibly difficult job trying to get a job in high school. It is almost impossible to get a job before you're 18 unless you are really beating the pavement or frankly creating your own work, you know, starting your own business. But at the same time, we expect students to have work experience.
Right.
So it's a very difficult challenge, and we talk a little bit about what students can do to get a little bit of experience, but it certainly is a challenge. And I think maybe I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you did while you were in your college program or in your high school program to get you some of those experiences? I know as a college, we do a lot of work-based learning, we help with internships, but also we bring in panels like you to our students at West Hills College Lemoore to learn about opportunities. So can you speak just briefly about some of the things maybe that you did to get you some of that experience?
Sure. I'll answer really quick. Networking is probably the number one thing that I did early on. I didn't really have this plan like I do now. You know, it was very off the cuff, but it's the one thing with the whole career. But early on, when I started off, you know, bucking hay, you know, I was throwing hay bales and delivering hay, and it's not a glorious job. I mean, I'm just breaking your back. Yeah, wake up in the morning pretty stiff now. But I did that for a lot of years, and it put me in front of producers, growers. You know, I thought it was pretty cool at the time. I got to learn from people, and I think that networking and asking questions gets you really far. Because you know, people like us will see, hey, here's a kid that really wants something, wants an opportunity, right? And if I have an opportunity, I'm going to give it to you, whether it's an internship, whether it's a job on the side, or even just a mentor type program. I might want to sit down and just mentor you for a day a week. I mean, most of us are wanting to do some level of coaching, but we have a hard time identifying who really wants the coaching and who really just doesn't, you know. So maybe there's some other ideas in this panel, but I think networking is the thing that y'all should focus on. Is getting to know people and letting people see who you really are on the inside. That's really going to open the doors for you.
Your comments?
Well, I agree with that, and you asked about what we might have done in our past, and I remember going to Cal Poly, and an ag teacher, or the head of the ag department here in Sperry, got me an interview over there, and I got a job. I needed to work when I got to school at Cal Poly, and so I went to work for the auto shop, even though that's not the ag field, but I got involved everywhere I could get involved in the clubs that were offered. You know, you think about clubs in the high school level, well, there's clubs there. Well, in the college level, there's clubs as well. And I got involved on campus. These judging things that Mike and others mentioned, you're highly visible out there when you're doing those things. Your name is being recorded. And so if you get involved in those kind of things, that's going to help you in your career. No question about it. Even if that career changes, I would encourage you to get involved. And when you get on a campus, whether it's at Reedley or it's in Cal Poly, Fresno State, wherever it may be, get involved. Especially if you want to be in the ag field, get involved, whether it's on any of the clubs or the judging teams or any of the things they have at the college level. I would certainly encourage you to do that. I have found that when I've hired people, I don't want a revolving door. I want employees that come and stay with me and want to make their career, like Mike mentioned. Work ethic is paramount with me. I don't want a revolving door. I want you to show up for work, and I want you to be there enthusiastically and tomorrow. And that's the kind of employees I have today, and I don't have a revolving door. So if you can get an internship or I don't mind training people myself, as others have mentioned. Those are the things you need to do, is just get out there and get involved.
I want to shift gears, and I don't want to forget to talk about innovation in your industry. So as you think about the industry in which you work, what is one or two innovations that you see coming down the road that you're really excited about, that you think might be changing the way your organization does business in agriculture? Anyone can jump in on it. Casey?
I don't know how excited I am about it. Electric trucks are coming. They are coming, and they're coming fast. Within the next 5 to 10 years, everything we do is going to change. The way we do everything today is going to change again.
Do you foresee electric trucks coming online as changing the kinds of employees you hire, changing the way that you hire, changing the facilities, all of the above?
Yeah, it's going to take a complete different type of shop. You're going to have enclosed environments where you can open up electronics and work on them. The mechanic, again, once it's going to change the knowledge that he has or she has. It's just the future. It's like it's coming fast.
I agree with Casey on electric. We're going to see it in tractors. We're going to see natural gas, methane, especially in California. But something else that we're going to see, I'm going to a meeting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, autonomous. We're going to see a tractor that's set up autonomous for spraying tomorrow, and hired help. You know, we're talking about as a panel up here, trying to find good employees. Our farmers, our producers have a worse time than we do in finding employees. And this autonomous technology is rapidly coming as the workforce pool that's out there for our producers just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We're going to be looking at autonomous, and along with that, again, the technology I have no clue where we're going when I get to that meeting tomorrow to see the amount of electronics, the amount of controlling systems, computer systems. I just can't imagine what it's going to be like. So, you know, that's the technology's coming. I think driverless trucks, Casey, are coming down the road too.
They're here right now.
Yeah. So that's some of the changes that we're seeing coming as well as what Casey said.
And I guess I'd throw in one other area, and that would be in the area of robotics. You know, in the beef industry and in our beef processing facility, we're always struggling with labor-related issues, getting people to show up every day. Unfortunately, I think, well, it's a double-edged sword, obviously. If you want to be one of those people working on a production line, you might not like the fact that industry's going to have to push more towards robotics to take some of those jobs. But I think that's going to lead to more highly skilled employees that are going to need to take care of the robotics. They're going to be, you know, trained in electronics and understand systems integration so that, you know, we can be successful as a company.
Well, thank you, Mike. That's a perfect segue into a shameless plug for my institution, West Hills College Lemoore. We have a certificate program, 2 semesters for industrial automation for robotic technicians. And I appreciate what you're saying, because what we're seeing with our students coming through that program, 100% employed every single year. They come out after 2 semesters, they're gobbled up before they even finish the program. Many of them are currently employed, their employers are sending them to us. to get upskilled and then go into a new role. And so I really appreciate that. I think we're probably going to be seeing that across all industries. One of the comments that we got on the chat that was sent to me, some students had some questions about the idea that agriculture is more than farming. And I think I just want to say to the students that are watching, when you look at this panel of speakers that we have today, though Mike says that he does have a cow-calf operation, the vast majority, well, I think everybody on the panel actually, they are not farmers as we would classically define them to be. They are supporting the work of farmers. They are supporting the production agriculture side of our industry. And I think it really bears mentioning that when we look at opportunity in our industry, it is going to be in that subsector of industry, of the ag industry, supporting the work of production agriculture. As we said kind of at the top of this segment, less and less of our population is in production agriculture, but an increasing number of people are supporting the production of that food because we are becoming more productive, more efficient, more prolific in our industry due to technologies and innovations that we were discussing than we ever have been before. So I want to stay on the topic of technology, and I want you to think about some technology, any tool that you use in technology in your daily life that you just could not imagine operating without. And obviously, cell phones and those kinds of things are going to be. But when you think about your specific industry and the work that you do, could you talk about what technology or tool you are using on the daily that really has made a difference in your work?
Normal stuff, normal stuff, but drones. For a long time, agronomists and PCAs would walk fields and look for problems, and say, hey, over this spot, we've got something going on, we'll walk out there to see what we talk about. But that's just, it's such a myopic way of doing business, right? So now we've moved on to define drones, the whole 8 years, what you can see visually, maybe a spot, the other 1 acre corner. Now from the sky, we're seeing this is really a whole problem of the entire field. Whether it's a problem with the spray application, or it's a pest pressure moving into the field, or there's a lot more technology. We kind of talked to the point about, those of us in production ag, the number of farmers in America is pretty slim. I mean, it's a pretty small percentage of the business, a massive industry behind those guys and gals to really keep them in business. I mean, from the drip tape manufacturers to the water, to the nutritionists, and there's thousands upon thousands of entrepreneurs that you can get into. It helps that small group of people really be successful in state business. And even ones that commodities produce, will ship all there's a lot more to it. So I really encourage all of you to do some homework and really dive into this stuff. You need to Google some of these jobs. I mean, it's new.
Yeah, and you mentioned drones. When you incorporate drones into your daily work, then that's a whole other level of employees that need to maintain the drones, operate the drones, et cetera. And Mike Harris Ranch uses drones on the feedlot, do they not?
Yeah, well, we're getting it. We're not quite there yet. So, those types of technologies, I think, become increasingly more important. There's the advent of even incorporating drones with some thermal technology to identify cattle that might not be feeling well. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in the area of drones. I guess I would also suggest that we're seeing more and more, and maybe this is just the advent or the result of COVID-19, but more and more of our sales, if you will, become online sales. So the ability to understand social media, to work with social media. From the beef industry side, I think what we have failed miserably at is telling our story, explaining to the layperson what we do and why we do, what technologies that we use now that they might be frightened of. And I think that's probably where our own worst enemy, if you will, because we're so busy trying to do the day-to-day work that's necessary for the business to remain successful that we often forget about what people are saying about us in this wider hemisphere. I think it would be an interesting exercise, if you will, to turn a bunch of young college students for industry to potentially support these young ag communicators, if you will, to see if we can't be more effective in telling our story, to refuting some of these myths that have just having been repeated time after time, somehow become reality, right? They're now the gospel truth. And use the example of methane emissions from live cattle. You know, I went from farting cows to belching cows to, you know, the Livestock's Long Shadow, the UN report that was launched over 10 years ago. More and more, they always point to those types of studies and say, see, those guys are doing it all wrong. But shame on us because we haven't done an effective job, in my opinion, of making certain that we're trying to be truthful in our response. The problem lies, though, in that my science versus your science, right? And I don't know if necessarily we're going to win the debate, the discussion with challenging folks with science. I mean, it's ability to address people's concerns. Listen, I'm terrible at this. I like to talk, but I don't necessarily often keep my ears open. My wife and my kids remind me of that quite often. But I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in that field as well. I mean, it's not necessarily technology, but from an old fart like myself, who at Cal Poly took a least cost ration formulation based on punch cards and went to the computer center. This technology has exploded. So I would be probably the worst person to try to explain what people need to get involved with.
Of course, kind of just building off of what Mike said, coming from the marketing communications area, one of the tools I use every day is the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. And if you do go into a college program, even if you don't, anyone can access it. You do have to pay for subscription to it. But I mean, it's everything from your Photoshop to your Lightroom to being able to build and edit videos, even the drone work. I mean, there's freelancers in this field who are doing drones and videos. My phone is by far one of my best important tools I use because I'm taking video or photos of it every day to share what we do and the people behind those things and what they do. We touch on the science, but it's really about showing that we on this panel and we in agriculture, we're normal people. I mean, we're just like everyone else, and we have jobs we have to do every day because we're feeding people, clothing, sheltering, whatever it may be. But that is by far one of the most important tools that I've had to learn. Social media by far has become so increasingly important, even whether it be TikTok or Reels. For those of you out there who use those every day, those are becoming something that we use quite often too within agriculture to just share our story and what we do. So, and people who are influencers on those pages. I have friends who are beef advocacy influencers, and their pages have blown up in what they've done to just educate people through memes or just funny videos they have. There are so many new tools and technologies that are coming in that I don't think we normally associate with the technology in agriculture that are helping to share the story of that.
And I think when we talked earlier about what students can do to get experience in the field, that's it right there. Ask for a drone for Christmas and start teaching yourself those skills. You can give yourself your own work experience if you take matters into your own hands. So we're running a little short on time, but we have had a couple of questions on the chat. Mike mentioned earlier something about robotics, replacing some human labor, and maybe just a real brief chat on how do you see that robotics integration changing the way you produce a product or support agricultural products? Anybody? Or nobody?
Like I said, we're looking at the technology. One of the difficulties, at least in the beef industry, is variability in the size, length, width of an individual unit. And I would call a unit, this would be a carcass that is going down a production floor that needs to be fabricated. But I think with the development and the advent of artificial intelligence, I think we're going to get to the point where those robotic systems are going to be able to be incorporated and address some of that variability, and be, I guess, a little more efficient in terms of how we can apply that technology.
Well, we're out of time, and I know that everybody that's watching us from a classroom or from home is very appreciative, as am I, for the time that we spent this morning learning about agriculture. We easily could have had a 3-hour panel for sure, because there were so many things that we did not touch on, but we will have another opportunity for a panel tomorrow with some same panelists, some different panelists. So if someone is watching at home tune in tomorrow again at 10 o'clock. I want to thank the panelists for their time today. This was incredible. I learned a ton as well. I really appreciate the time. I'm going to guarantee you that everyone watching at home is giving you a standing ovation, even though you can't see or hear them. But thank you so much for coming today, and thank you for logging in to our folks and classmates at home.